Chief Investment Officer of UNGSII. Anis, can we have the spotlight on Anis, Risha, please? Anis, you're there?
Yeah, Anis, you have to unmute yourself, Anis.
I'm unmuted.
Yes. Hi, Anis. My question to you, I think Roland has given us a very good introduction about what UNGSII does and how we need to implement the SDGs on ground. You being the Chief Investment Officer of UNGSII, what we would like to understand from you, what do you consider as some of the core basic principle of sustainability focused investments?
Okay, thank you. That's a nice introduction. Perhaps I might just start by helping all of the audience here, whether you're finance related or not, to help understand our journey. Our journey is not 1 or 2 years, it's 7 or 8 years. When we started thinking about sustainability, even before the SDGs were signed, when they were Millennium Development Goals, there has always been an education process to the finance sector, because simply put, it was not a vogue or an area where people would want to invest, maybe because of risk profile, but also because it wasn't necessarily the right thing to do to get the best return. So my transformation is actually education. I've had to spend 5 years educating people that you can make just as good a better bottom return. If it's a second line bottom return or the first line that you look for, we can provide all the people that are investing in an ability to invest in our SCR 500, which we bench tested purely by selecting SDG related stock. So for 3 years, we bench tested that system. We proved ourselves to be better bottom line returns than the standard markets, and we have the data to prove that. So that's the first part of the education, is that when you sit in front of somebody that controls capital, they have a mandate to make the best returns for their investors. That's quite standard and normal in finance. And of course, everybody wants that. But what is the price of that bottom line? Is it to invest in stocks that are non-SDG, non-impact, because they give a better return, or they simply don't get reported? So that's the second part of the journey, is people who are slowly coming to an understanding that if you have an ESG fund or an SDG fund, you can make good returns, and the impact is as high, if not higher, than a standard impact fund. But my role as a CIO is to have microfunding loans to the developing world, private equity, VC, and large capital programs, because we are global and we do everything that is needed to implement capital around the world. And that really brings me to India particularly. The SCR 500 is global, it's a global 500 stocks, it's extremely well reported. However, that is quite a distance between people sitting in India. So how do we control where the pension funds invest? How do you as a citizen decide that you don't want your money that you put into your investment program to go to drugs or alcohol or other areas or fossil fuels? How do you control that? What voice do you have when you decide, yes, I'm going to put my money in my company's pension fund? What voice do you have to say what you can invest in? Should it just be me coming to see the pension fund manager and saying, you know, we'd much prefer that you had a high impact and a lower return? Of course, that doesn't work. It has to be the voice of the citizens. All of the people involved in that pension fund now need a voice. And if there's any silver lining in COVID, we see different voices. We see people seeing and understanding that climate is important, but more importantly, that they found their own voice. And so those voices must be heard by corporations, by investment people, and people like us that run foundations. We need to understand where they think the world is going, as well as us in a finance world saying where we should drive it and take it to. So this is very much a bottom-up approach to the way that people want their money to be invested. So we would like to launch an SCR 300 or 100 for India. That allows all the companies that are listed to have a voice. We will produce a report every year, which we do in the same way as we do the SCR 500, but dedicated to Indian stock. And this is the first part of that education, that people can then see that if you invest in very strong SDG companies that are based in India or the subcontinent, you can very easily get just as good a return as you could in your normal sphere. What we're then looking to do is to communicate that down to the citizen level. A pension fund maybe in India may have 400 million people in it, but what communication do they give? They give a financial return and not very much more. We're driving those institutions to report on the SDGs, to report on the impact that they have made. And that's a slightly different style of reporting, but one that we're very much embedded with in all the things that we do through our foundation. So the message is really quite clear. AJ is on ground if you need to speak with him. If not, come and talk to us at the foundation. We'd be very happy to help for people to understand what the stocks do and how they do. I think some of you already seen the SCR 500 in the pack that went out. It would be a very similar process, but it would be dedicated to your local stocks. And then beyond that, it's also a citizen's voice. You don't have to just do India, but if you want to be as an individual, not through your pension fund and investing, then we have the systems in place to be able to do that with our partners as well. So in conclusion, it's been a long journey of education, but what we see along that journey is not green shoots of impact and sustainable investing, but actually a greater need driven by the people, and that's very encouraging for the next few years.
Thank you, Anis. Thanks a lot. I think what the key takeaway from your message is, the sustainable investment is a collective voice. It's not, it's the citizen's voice. That's what you do as a basic principle, and that's what defines sustainability, what people need, and what the world needs in today's time. Now,